But to answer your question, it's not a competitor to Unity, but it's kind of mimicking what Unity does on the web in that sense. Yeah.
How is this different to like programs like Goya, the online, where all the app is based on a server online?
Right. That's a very good question. It's a very good question. So when you come to remote rendering, remote viewing of data, you've got kind of two options, or three options in fact. The first option is the option I'm showing you, which is where all the raw assets are downloaded to your computer, basically, to your browser, and the actual engine that renders everything, whether it's in 2D or 3D, is in the browser. The second option, which is completely the opposite, is where you basically have a team viewer or a remote desktop where the image is completely rendered offline on a very powerful server, and the actual image is transmitted across the internet. And that boils down to basically a video transmission, which is basically transmitting a video. The downside of that is there is a certain lag. The advantage of rendering it in your browser is that once all the data is downloaded, there is no latency. When you move the mouse, there's no delay in the movement of the scene. The advantage of doing it the other way is that you render with all the power of a server and you're transmitting the video across, but then there is a certain latency because when you move your mouse, that mouse movement has to be translated, sent to the server, done again, and then sent on the data sent back. So there's a balance there, and I think what is going to happen is that there's going to be a middle ground between the two, whereby certain things are rendered offline and certain things are rendered offline. To give you an example, if we want to load a 3D asset here into WebGL Studio or any WebGL application that we have, you can drag and drop the OBJ file, the object file in, and it loads very quickly. But if we wanted to load a more complex scene like an FBX, which has lights, which has animation, which has materials and so on and so forth, that is quite a bit of a pain in the arse to program that in JavaScript. But decoding it in an offline process on the server is very simple. So what we might do in that scenario is if someone dragged an FBX in, we might upload that FBX to a server, get the server to pass it, create a more friendly scene, and then resend the data back down to the pipe to the user. So there's that balance between rendering your material on the user's machine or rendering on the server or finding some way halfway between the two. Okay? Does that make sense? So, just to finish up, where do we go from here with 3D production? I think there's opportunities there for some more shall we say, commercial applications for companies who want to look into it. I think there are lots of different ways to integrate this stuff. Do you do it purely as a browser-based thing where the browser is the portal, like Google Drive basically, or do you write plugins for things like Maya or 3D Studio Max or Nuke or whatever it is, which allow people to integrate the web and the sharing via the web into their usual workflow? That's a question I don't know the answer to. I think we're going to do quite a lot of collaboration with VFX studios such as Minimore. These guys are perfect for us. They're almost a perfect use case for us because Double Negative is huge, right? It's a very big company with very high standards. They don't really need that remote transfer, whereas these guys at Minimore, they're 10 people. They depend on that transfer of assets across the internet quite a lot. So they're kind of an ideal partner to us to help drive the technology and make sure it's relevant for the modern world. And then from an R&D point of view, so that's from a more production point of view, from an R&D point of view, I've been doing quite a lot of work with progressive asset transfer, like simplifying data into a way that can be, you transfer a low resolution first, and that resolution gets progressively refined as more data gets downloaded. Sooner rather than later, a new version of WebGL is going to come out, and that's going to remove a lot of the restrictions, it's going to bring it a lot closer to standard OpenGL, which is going to make things run a bit faster. And right now we've got a student in our group who's just speaking to the people in medical imaging in UCL, and we've been showing them their stuff, and they've been like, if you could have a doctor right now who could remotely look at a patient on their iPad and not have to travel all the way across the city to a different hospital, to a different consultancy to do something, then you'd make a real killing, because doctors want convenience, they want things to work, and if you could have that data remotely being viewed on your iPad, or if you had, for example, a junior doctor who wasn't sure about a particular case, he could very quickly ping a more senior doctor and say, what do you think of this, very quickly, and they are very excited by that idea. There's all sorts of applications in mapping and archaeology. We're just submitting a new proposal now for a project where they're mapping of remote, very remote archaeological ruins, like in the desert and stuff. So you bring a laser scanner out on a plane and you map that data and the visualization of that data. So that might be quite interesting as well. So there are several different application fields that I think which will throw up new research R&D questions, which I'm quite interested to tackle. If you're interested in this, then the first survey paper on this was published just this month or last month by a certain Alan Evans and my co-workers. And yes, I work at University Pompeu Fabra, and this is all part of IMPART, which is this collaborative project. And that's the end of what I have to say. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, then you can catch me now or later. Yeah?
I was just going to ask, so the kind of idea you're proposing is having all of your sort of 3D tools running in a web browser, and you're kind of promoting the convenience of being able to share with people online and that kind of thing. It kind of seems like, I mean, the WebGL is always going to be playing catch up with OpenGL, and Chrome and everything are always going to be playing catch up with native applications like Maya and whatever. Sort of why not approach it if the goal you're trying to achieve is collaboration on 3D assets, then it would seem to make more sense to kind of have a standard sort of plug-in format that you can put into Maya and you can and whatnot, and be able to sort of collaborate in that way.
So, I agree 100% with what you say, but I contend with your very first statement which was, and it means I was misunderstood, because I'm not advocating moving our tools into the web. This is what these guys are advocating, Clara.io, and I think they're aiming too high. These guys are basically making Maya in the browser, right? Yeah. And I think that's a mistake. I don't think, if you've been working with Maya for 10 years or 20 years, Maya has been developed over the last 30 years as a product. It's incredibly mature, it makes amazing things. It is incredibly complicated for the newcomer. You're not going to suddenly give that all up, and go and work with these new types on the thing, right? So I agree with you in the sense that I don't think that's going to happen, and I don't advocate it happening. I don't think it will happen. But it's precisely for the reasons that you say, that WebGL is always going to be playing catch up. You're never going to be able to make a tool that is powerful as Maya or Nuke or whatever in the browser. It's not going to happen. In fact, Adobe tried to do it recently with Photoshop. They tried to do an online version of Photoshop, and it bombed because people said, what's the point? I've got Photoshop, it's working very nicely here, why am I going to use it on the line? However, the advantage of being able to integrate with the browser as a common platform in between all these different things, I think is an advantage that has been demonstrated with the success of things like Google Drive, right? And I think, so the answer to your question is pretty much exactly what you said, is that the answer is that the other tools, such as Nuke and Maya and whatever it is, are going to integrate somehow via the web as the sort of a collaborative point in between them. And I think one of the issues is, like, for example, if you've ever tried to move a file from Maya to 3D Studio Max, they're the same company, it should be like that, and it's not. It's not. You have to export it properly in FBX, choose your options correctly, do all that kind of stuff. And even if it's the same company developing both products, it's a complete nightmare. And I see that there is a gap for that common space where you can work collaboratively, whilst at the same time creating your raw product offline in the expert tool which is designed to create that.
But then, I mean, surely you were just creating file converters and that kind of thing. I mean, where's the sort of the WebGL bit come in?
The WebGL bit, the reason you're doing it is because you want to have a way to visualize it online in a way, short of sharing your screen, which you could do. Let's say if you made a model now tomorrow in Maya and you wanted to show me it, right? You'd have to send it to me, right? And if that, maybe you send it via WeTransfer or Dropbox or whatever. And that's fine, but you have to make sure I had Maya. You have to make sure I had the right version of Maya. You might have to make sure are there any plugins that you might have used to generate that, right? And if I wanted to comment on that, then I'd have to write you an email or a Google Docs or a Word and say, right, well, I'd have to take a screenshot of what you've done, drag that screenshot into Google Docs, draw an arrow along and say, I don't like the fact that you've made this nose too big or whatever it is, right? And so you're assuming that I have all the tools that you have on your machine installed and ready to go. Now, if we work for the same company, that might be the case. But in many cases now, you're not working for the same company. You can't guarantee that, right? Especially if you're trying to demo something to a company that you don't know very well. They might work at 3ds Max rather than Maya, to give a silly example, right? And so the fact that you've got this collaborative common space, which is capable of showing exactly what you see in this browser, is exactly what the person on the other side of the line will see. And short of sharing your screen, which is another possibility, and I don't discount it for a second, that's, I think, the advantage of that collaborative thing.
So it's kind of pitching it as a review tool.
Yeah, more as a review tool, rather than I don't think creation is the goal of this. I think you're going to create your content the way you've always created it. But what I do think you're going to do is you're going to review it in a different kind of way. So in that sense, I think it's slightly different to the Google Docs analysis, because many times you do create things in Google Docs or document collaboratively. But if any of you work with Google Docs, what you usually do is you create it with Google Docs collaboratively, and someone at the end copies it out of Google Docs, puts it into Word, and tidies it up and makes a Word document, which is then made into a PDF and sent off. So I don't think it's going to be the final result. You're never going to get the final result of this. You're never going to get the initial result out of it either. You're going to get that middleware, that middle space where it enables that collaboration. At least I think. Sorry, yeah.
I had a couple of quick questions. One thing that wasn't clear from your presentation is, one of the big benefits of Google Docs and those kind of tools is being able to sort of collaboratively work on the same thing at the same time.
Yeah.
I wasn't clear whether or not you could have the same scene open by multiple people
So
working on it at the same time, because that seems like a massive benefit.
the answer is conceptually yes. Conceptually yes. There's no reason why not. The answer is, can you do it? Can we do it right now? No. But this is all saved. So this is a scene which is saved. Where are we? This is a scene which is saved and it's loaded. We can both load this scene at the same time in our different browsers, right? And what we could do then, it's a question of whether you do it peer-to-peer or whether you do it via a server. So you could have an automatic system which detects the second that I drag an annotation along here, hello, then I save that. You could have a system that goes ping, pings the server and updates the scene, and then updates any other scenes that are currently accessing that. Then I think that's definitely possible. It's not technologically, it's not. We've never had to do it yet, but I think it's something that I think would demonstrate the power of it very, very, very powerfully and very interestingly. And the same thing with anything. If we select a node here, if we select this node and we change the color of this node, have I selected that node? Yes. And we change the color of this node, right, to I don't know, pink or green or whatever, then again that's one change which is pinged to the server, which is pinged back. Or maybe it's pinged peer-to-peer to the person that's using it. I like the idea of doing it with a server, because then it's one-to-many rather than one-to-one. So that's a definite. So conceptually, yes, it's not very difficult to do at all. Did you have another question? You had a couple.
Yeah, my question was just about doing compute stuff on GPU using web as well. And a bit of buzz about WebCL over the last
Yeah.
I've not heard a huge amount about that recently. Is that still kind of lagging behind?
Yeah, it's lagging even further behind WebGL because it needs. You can hack WebGL quite easily to compute stuff. So if any sort of image processing can be done very easily with WebGL. And the WebCL stuff is definitely lagging a little bit. It works. There is stuff you can do, but again, I think with the compute stuff, I think there's more of a case to farm that out to the server and just send the results, because this can be, is running all on my laptop, which is quite a powerful laptop, but it's still a laptop. And if you're going to use WebCL and that ability to crunch numbers, then, and all you need to do is to have the result, then either you do it on your local machine or you do it on a server and you get the results on the server. So I think that's the case perhaps where more pressure will be put on the server. But WebCL exists and people are doing stuff with it. I don't see quite the advantage of what the web brings to crunching numbers. The web brings quite an easy advantage to collaborative working in this sense, but I haven't figured, maybe someone might be convinced otherwise, someone can tell me, but I don't see that yet.
I think one of the challenges with this kind of stuff is just transferring quite large assets.
Yeah.
To the cloud back.
Yeah, so to give you an example, to go back to this here, this is a classic example where this is 100 and something megabytes. Thanks to this fat pipe, it comes down very quickly, but it needed to be split up and separated and uploaded differently. And another thing we have here, these are part of our work with IMPART is in point clouds, which have come from double negative, funnily enough, from the University of Surrey. And so this example here is a progressive loading of a point cloud. So it starts with we've extracted a 7 million point clouds into an octree, and then we download the higher levels of the octree first and visualize them. And as we download more and more data, then the resolution of this point cloud increases until we reach a level which is what you might call a final rendering. And we can go to another example. I love having such a fast internet connection. It's like magic. Here's the University of Surrey. As you can see, it uploads progressively the different levels of data. And that's actually, if you go to the CVMP conference in London this year, I'll be showing some more results about that, hopefully. So that's a research, that's an R&D point of view that we're working on right now.
So we should wrap it up now.
Yeah.
Starting now, but Alan's around
All day, basically. So.
Might even ask you lots of questions that I was hoping to get from the presentation.
Great. Thank you very much.